Sabres win 2 out of the last 3, but is it too little, too late? We'll talk about that right after this intro. What's up and welcome to Sabres Edge podcast presented by Nickel City Mafia. If you haven't had a chance yet, subscribe, like, and comment on the show. We will also be taking questions from the chat as well. And just a little thing that's going on until March 17th is join our Discord, which is going to be in our description of the show. We have this thing called Big Stitch Embroidery sponsoring a $100 gift card. Which is going to be in our Discord chat. All you have to do is sign up for Discord, get into our Discord chat, which the invitation is going to be in the bio, and then just join the Discord chat for Big Stitch Embroidery. And then we'll see you there. So my name is Top Shelf Timmy Corks, and my co-host, Sammy Saucy Mitts. Sammy, what's going on, my man?
Well, not much. I mean, you talked about leaving comments below in the YouTube videos, and I feel like kind of to start the show off on a more lighthearted note, we got a comment on the last video from Jake. So shout out to Jake. And he asked, let me just pull that up real quick. He asks, what's the next ritual to get this team back? It all rides on you, baby. Kind of directed at me, but I kind of feel like we can open this up. What do we think that the next ritual should be for us?
Well, first,
the bag lost its magic in Florida.
I mean,
on stream.
I still see the bag back there, still making its presence known.
Yeah. Mike recommended that I should keep the bag on stream because it's, and you know what, it makes a good decoration sitting back there. So, but
yeah, keeps a good theme to the show. Well, for me, I recently just cut the flow. I was wearing some long hair, but now it's short. My barber kind of messed that up, so maybe this can bring us some good luck since I cut the flow. I don't know. What are some other things that we can do? I mean,
I don't know. I've started growing this atrocious mustache, so like maybe that'll help. I'm not sure, Jake, but we can keep throwing stuff at the wall and just hoping that it works. But until then, all we can do is hope.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what we're riding on right now for wins for the Sabres because we had a little bit of a win streak, but that came crashing to a halt. So I guess that rolls into the past week of games. So last week, our first game that we will be going over is going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning game. That was following the Florida Panthers game. The Sabres ended up winning in overtime 3-2. In that game, we had Alex Tuch with a goal, Tage Thompson with a goal, and Rasmus Dahlin had the overtime winner. And some people were talking about that overtime winning goal. Sam, what are your thoughts about that game and the overtime winning goal on that?
Well, I mean, for the overtime winning goal specifically, we've harped a lot on Matty Ellis and his inability to draw up actually functioning set plays or like power plays. And you know what? We get a power play in overtime and a set play wins it for us. And it comes out later that, that was exactly what they had intended to do. It wasn't just like Dahlin saw a seam there. Like that was what was drawn up. So it's, you know what? Credit where credit was due. It was a really nice play and a nice goal. You expect, you don't expect the defenseman to be the one getting low and they're all like worried about Thompson's shot. So the seam opened up for him just as Matty Ellis envisioned it. And it was a great overtime goal, obviously against the team that you're competing with or hoping to be competing with for one of those wild card spots. You don't want to give them the overtime, but at this point, I don't think that we can be worrying too much about what other teams are doing. And instead we need to just be worried about ourselves because we're not in the greatest position right now. So the win's the win. Honestly, very good game all around by our team. had some just very upbeat performances. Like some of the bottom line players were kind of outperforming what you'd expect. Krebs, Gergensons, Okposo, they all look good, and you got the win, so no complaints there.
Yeah. Totally wasn't expecting for them to get the win this time around with Tampa Bay. I think last time they faced Tampa Bay, it was another overtime win for them as well back earlier in the year. Like you said, you really don't want to be giving up points at this point to teams that are ahead of you. But I was listening to WGR, and essentially to make the playoffs, I think the bottom line to get the last wild card spot, they're predicting to be around 92 points, I believe, and the Sabres would only have 4 losses to give for the rest of the season to even get at that points per pace. And that's also expecting the other team to fall apart. So a lot of hoping going on. It was a crazy thing I listened to too. Sabres have more. You wouldn't say, what would it be called? Just not overtime wins,
regulation wins.
They have more regulation wins than the Toronto Maple Leafs, I believe the Boston Bruins, and I believe the New York Islanders.
Yeah. We have, it would seem, a very tough time in close games. And so when a game is close, it often results in a regulation loss for us rather than an overtime loss or an overtime win. We have trouble taking those close games into overtime. You see against Tampa, we get the close game into overtime and we ended up winning that, but we've probably gone to overtime and beyond. I believe it's like 6 times this season. It's something very low.
Yeah.
And
compared to last season too. Last season we had a bunch of like overtime games, if I recall.
Yeah,
right?
Lots of thrillers last season going into overtime. But this year, I guess we are not as fortunate. But
no, it's kind of been, the Sabres been bitten in regulation, and I mean it's proof to the point that this team, it's just been a weird season overall for this team. So, I mean, really, you've kind of explained everything going on that went with the Lightning game. I think someone mentioned one of the college teams actually incorporated that play into their game later that weekend. I don't know if it was Boston College or BU, but I think one of those teams incorporated that overtime play in there. So, that's cool. I mean, that's a little bit of like a standout for the Sabres for a season like this. I guess we can move on to the next game after that. So I think this is the
before we do that, we should just address the chat because I don't think we've seen Music Melody in here, and they say next year they will cook the competition, and to that I say I sure hope so because it's been tough and we've been saying that for many years, but I think more than you have kept optimism about what the future holds, and so I'm willing to believe that.
I do have optimism for the team. I mean, the players on the team, give me a lot of optimism. The other parts like management and coaching, I don't know. I mean, it's just it's a paradox year from last year where we're like, well, we don't have goaltending, but we have goal scorers. This year is, well, we have goaltending, but we don't have goal scorers. So it's been a really interesting season. And then I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to expect for next year at this point. I know some moves are going to have to be made. So you never know. But I mean, like I said, the window still kind of in the opening phases for the Sabres to get into like the Stanley Cup run. But do we have the guys to get us there? That's another question and another conversation we can have later on the show or at a later time. Music Melody, thanks for joining us. Feel free to, join the chat too. It gives us more stuff to talk about. And then, like always, we got Mike on there. Mike forgot what you looked like without the bag on your face. So,
thank God, I'm so beautiful.
No comment. So then the next game after that, we got what?
Come on.
What I say?
No comment. You got to at least acknowledge just how beautiful I am.
All right, so we have the Sabres.
Timmy.
Very nice. Yeah, Sammy, look great. So the next game after that, we have the Vegas Golden Knights game. And roasted. We have the Buffalo Sabres beating the Vegas Golden Knights 7-2. But Jack Eichel did not play in that game. But basically, a quick recap of the game, who scored in there. Everyone and your mother. So we got Jeff Skinner, Dylan Cousins, Zemgus Girgensons, Kyle Okposo. So we got some guys who are probably not going to be on the team this week. And we have Owen Power and Dylan Cousins and Casey Middlestat with goals in that game. Sam, what's your takeaway from the Vegas Golden Knights game?
Well, obviously, I'd like to touch on, they didn't have Jack Eichel, don't have Mark Stone. I believe they were missing a few other kind of key guys, but
did their starter play too?
No, it wasn't Aiden Hill. It was Logan Thompson. So
yeah,
you're playing what's maybe a diminished Vegas Golden Knights, but nonetheless, that is the team that won the Stanley Cup last year. So it's always a good opportunity to make a statement win, and they did. 7-2. The Dylan Cousins goals are amazing. That's what you want to see Dylan Cousins kind of get back to. He's using his speed and his power to just take advantage of people on the penalty kill. Both of his goals were on, so he gets two shorthanded goals, and that's exciting, especially for a guy who's probably needing that confidence boost. But other than that, other than just how much fun it is to finally score again, yeah, you kind of take it with a grain of salt with how many key players they have missing.
Yeah. I mean, not having Aiden Hill as your starting goaltender too. I mean, that's because the guy was playing rock solid at the beginning of the year. I haven't been tracking him too much the second half this season, but when you're facing their backup goaltender, you're hoping the Sabres can score 7 goals in a game. It's weird that they have these outbursts of games where they just can pile on goals. And then the next game afterwards is kind of goals are scarce. So, but yeah, overall, good team win. It's kind of funny, even with that game. I feel like even when we have a game where they're scoring a boatload of goals, there's really no standout player for that game either. So I know later on when we get into our 3 stars of the week, and I was reviewing this earlier, I'm like, I was having a hard time picking 3 stars, to be totally honest with you. Because it's been a bipolar week for the Sabres. But yeah, I mean, it's good to get a win, even though they were missing some guys as the Vegas Golden Knights. It's still frustrating. You go 0-2 to the Ducks, but you go 2-0 to the Vegas Golden Knights. So I think Vegas Golden Knights right now can actually beat the Ducks with their stars missing. So yeah. And the crazy thing too is we had more shots on goal as well, 35 shots on goal in that game too. So good win, good atmosphere. Still some Sabres fans are a little bit sour on Jack Eichel. Sam, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier in the season. Are you still sour on Jack?
Last week we talked about it a little maybe. But no, not really. I'm over it. Yeah. It's always a little annoying, and it's kind of fun to root against him. Like if he's in the stadium and I'm in the crowd, I'm gonna boo. It's fun. It's fun to do that. But do I actually hold any animosity anymore? No. He had a tough departure from here, but I don't think that we or the Pagulas did everything right either. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah. It's nice to see what type of player he's become since he left Buffalo, where he's now a two-way player, where he does the penalty kill and he plays defense too, and he's become a better goal scorer as well. And he doesn't have the pressure. You have Mark Stone on that team, takes away the pressure from Jack. So overall, I'm actually happy for him. I know he had a tough go in Buffalo. There's a lot of rumors swirling around Buffalo too, like always in a small city. So I'm glad he got out and is playing well in Vegas right now. So, and I'm also glad he got his cup too. I mean, guy was playing second fiddle to McDavid his whole career, but guess who got a cup first? Eichel did. So
I'm not happy about the cup. That's something I won't concede. I am not happy that he got a cup outside of Buffalo, but
yeah, I can understand that. But like you said, it wasn't really how much of it was the treatment of management and the team towards him. And also I think Buffalo in general, we just kind of gave him an inflated ego, making him the savior of the franchise right when he got in 18 years old, too. So,
yeah, that probably doesn't help.
yeah. Anyways, that's all I really had to take away from the Vegas Golden Knights game. And then we go back-to-back games. We play UPL back-to-back in games. And we play the Winnipeg Jets. And in that game, the Sabres fall 5-2. In that game, though, JJ Peterka ended his goalless streak and was at, he's goalless for like 10 games, but yeah. He has 20 goals in the season. I still think he might lead the team at this point in goals.
I think he's tied with Jeff Skinner.
We're Skinner right now? Okay. And then we also had Sabres point getter Eric Robinson getting the second goal on that game. Now the Sabres, they carried a 2-1 lead into the third period. And at that point, with 10 minutes left, the wheels fell off and the Winnipeg Jets ended up scoring, I believe it's 4 unanswered goals, and the game ended 5-2. Tough game to have back-to-back. Tough with a playing. It's been weird because they don't want to. Usually you have your backup goaltender playing the second game in a back-to-back, but they wanted to ride UPL at this point, which, I mean, I guess if you're still holding on to playoff hope, you're going to have to ride your hot hand like you rode Levi last year. But yeah, at the end of that game, you kind of saw the emotional energy out of the team, and it all fell apart at the end with those 10 minutes left. Sam, what are your thoughts overall on that game?
Well, first of all, I don't really have too much of an issue with them riding Luukkonen back-to-back, because in the Vegas game, he only got 24 shots against, and very few of those were in the third period. So he actually had a little bit of time to rest there. So I think that you probably had a better chance with maybe a slightly tired Luukkonen than a Eric Comrie that's fully rested. On top of that, Luukkonen didn't play too poorly in that game. I think he was running a .909 save percentage by the end of it, which, he's had better save percentages, but that's still probably pretty good goaltending, especially because we haven't gotten too many great goaltending performances outside of this calendar year. So, yeah, I don't think that loss was Luukkonen, and I don't think playing him was the wrong choice. What I do think is that even when we were up 2-1 going into the third, and this is how you fall on your face with 9 minutes to go, even when we were up 2-1 going into third, we were being outplayed.
Yeah,
they were playing better than us, and I think I mentioned that I like the way that Winnipeg structurally pressures opponents, and the way that they kind of just don't give you that much time to work with. They're always on you, and they have good support with each other. Mm-hmm. They were forcing us into kind of either like bad offensive drives or just giving it up more often than not. And they were really taking it to us, with us for the first 2 periods getting bailed out a lot by Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And then, you keep letting them get those opportunities, and all of a sudden it's the third, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who's on the tail end of a back-to-back, lets in a rather soft goal. Mm-hmm. And after that, there's another one I think it was a breakaway, but like he's been doing better on breakaways, and that one was okay, but it's still a breakaway, and all of a sudden you're down. You're down in a game where you've been held in by your goalie, and you haven't been playing that well. The 2 subsequent goals were empty net goals, so really kind of it's a 3-2. It's not that big of an implosion, but it's still kind of frustrating. You hate to see, with 10 minutes to go, us just fall that flat, but we didn't deserve to win that game. From start to finish, we didn't deserve it. We were lucky to be up a goal going into the last 10 minutes, and that's why it's so disappointing, because we were up a goal going in the last 10, but I was holding my breath the whole time, because I was like, if we could etch this out, if we could get a point out of this, that'd be great. And we didn't. So it looks like we fell apart. It was never going well, is my kind of synopsis of it.
Yeah. I mean, you have a red hot Winnipeg Jets team coming in here too, and I forgot where they are in their conference wise, but they're playing pretty
They might
well as
be
of late.
first right now.
That's what I was thinking last time I checked. So,
yep, they are first in the Central right now, and it's kind of not close because they have 3 games in hand in the next 2 people.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's a good team that you get to face. But this is, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what people were expecting out of the Sabres team. This is par for the course for the Sabres this year. I mean, you win a big game and then you get blown out the game afterwards, and I don't know. It's a testament to like the team fortitude overall, the accountability point that I've been pounding all this season, and where I went on my tirade back in December for this team. So I'm not going to go on that tirade again. I know Mike was expecting me to flip out and lose my mind on this team. I've come to peace. What is it? Where I was talking about the stages of grief. The grief.
Oh yeah,
I've finally
I've hit
settled.
acceptance.
Yeah, I'm at acceptance phase. Like I realized, like I know some fans are still holding out the same or the playoffs point. I'm not. I'm done. We're good with that. No more. And then yeah, Mike saying you got to play prevent or you play prevent, right? Not against a team like that. You just gotta keep your foot on their throats. You gotta keep on trying to score every chance that you get, especially when you're playing a good team like that and you're up on them. The Sabres aren't good enough to play prevent. They don't have the players to do that.
We have exactly one, and it's Jordan Greenway.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, if you're like
maybe Casey Middlestat.
If you're the Boston Bruins, maybe you would say the New York Islanders this year. Any like defensive face team, if you get 2 goals and you're up 1, then yeah, you can do that. The Sabres, you can't do that. They're just not a good defensive team. So Mike is calling me soft. I mean, Mike, we've gotten a lot of emotion on these streams. I've had people telling me that I got to stop watching the Buffalo Sabres because I'm going to lose my mind. So maybe this is me. I already lost my mind and I'm just totally fine with this team. So, no, I think in reality, my mind's just been, focused on like the trade deadline coming up. There's been some comments coming from Kevin Adams that the only moves he's going to be making are going to be focused on the future of this team and making the future of this team better. So, which are weird comments because those type of trades don't happen at the trade deadline. So,
yep.
And then my focus has also been on just kind of like, I've been on to next season I think since like beginning of February, end of January. So that's where my total mindset's been. So the wins and losses right now, I could care less about. Are you playing yourself out of a top pick spot? Yeah, sure. We had this conversation. I could care less about a top pick. They already have enough guys up there. I don't know. Sam, where are you at? Where are you at overall with like the Sabres? I know we've been going games, but like, are you like emotionally invested in the game to game with the Sabres at this point?
The game to game, I just can't.
Yeah.
For the first time in a while recently, because we were on that streak and that got ended by Florida, and then we kind of won 2 more games, I was looking at the standings and I'm like, what is the actual feasibility of it? And it's not worth caring about the game to game because it'll just hurt me more.
Yeah.
If they end up stringing together like 5 wins, then maybe I'll care a little bit more. But our current longest win streak, I believe, is still 3, and we've only done that once this season. So I'm not holding my breath. I'm really not. I'm not going to think too heavily about it. I'm not going to let that weigh me down too aggressively, but it's there is some hope. Like, you got 3 games still against the Red Wings.
Yeah.
If you win all 3 of those, that's a wild card team that you're effectively handicapping. Like, but is it really that feasible? No, not right now. So we just wait. Check kind of on the grand scale of things. See what things are going well, what we can appreciate. Like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen having a great second half of the year. Like Zach Benson being a pretty good story throughout the year. Like Casey Middlestat kind of coming into his own as not the greatest point producer ever, but probably the most well-rounded player on our team. Like Rasmus Dahlin putting together another kind of quiet but Norris caliber season. Yeah. All of those things are positive things that I can look at and be like, this is nice. Day to day, I watch us and we lose, and I'm like, that hurts me. That hurts my mental state.
I'm numb to it at this point, but yeah, just to kind of go over like the quick like schedule that's coming up for the rest of March. I mean, you're away at Toronto, which we've kind of had Toronto's number this year. We're away in Nashville, which I think we've split with them so far this year. Then you're home in Edmonton, which Edmonton, has been kind of on fire lately. Detroit, which has been a pesky team right now. I mean, they're not as good as they think they are, but they are I believe they're in a wild card spot right now. New York Islanders having a down year, but then you go on your West Coast trip, and it starts off away in Detroit, then you go to Seattle, then you go to Vancouver, then you go to Edmonton, then you go to Calgary, then you come back home to Ottawa, New Jersey, Toronto, and that's just the rest of March. And that's going to be a tough schedule, especially when you have a West Coast trip at the end of the season to try to pull out wins there to keep this going. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of, like I said, whatever happens, the ebbs and flow of the season. Like, I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs. If they do, I'll eat crow. Not literally, I will not eat crow. But yeah, I'll take it. But still, I mean, yeah, I don't know what else is going on. I mean, it's hard. I'm enjoying UPL being a good goaltender. He's living up to what he was as projected as a prospect. So that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the ride I'm enjoying right now. We have two good goaltenders in the system. Now I need some good defensemen in the system coming on. So, yeah, and Mike brings that up for the trade deadline. So, yeah, the trade deadline is going to be coming up on Friday. Can you see us getting a top defenseman for the future in this draft? Sam, any rumors you've heard at all?
No, I haven't heard any rumors about it. Honestly, again, I know a lot of people wanted us to make these big splash moves.
Yeah,
I haven't been about that. You look at our roster, and it's one where our defense just kind of need to age as time is the big component for us right now, because you have Rasmus Dahlin. We probably have the youngest D-core, I guess, besides Eric Johnson. And he's probably traded out, but we have one of the youngest. We at least have the youngest top four, because in theory it's Rasmus Dahlin and Samuelson, and then Owen Power and Yoki Haru is kind of going into the year like the top four. And then you add Ryan Johnson, who was kind of playing in college. You have Komarov is in the queue, and he's lighting it up. And you have the Russian guy that we have in the AHL right now, who's only 20, and he's holding his own. It's a lot. It's a lot of. Sorry, you can go.
No, I was about to say there's a defensive prospect in the playing in the Canadian Hockey League, Komarov, and he's got 2 points this season as a 5th round pick for the Sabres. So that's another guy too. But yeah, keep on going. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying. So we have guys on defense that we just, they're going to become good in theory. At least you'd think, with how good they are currently and how defensemen normally progress, you have probably a top 4 packed in somewhere with those guys that I mentioned.
Yeah.
You have the bottom is currently Connor Clifton, and if Connor Clifton and one of the other prospects end up as your 6th or your 5 and 6 defenseman, that's fine. I as the season have gone on, I'm okay with Connor Clifton. I don't actually really have any problems with his game, especially if he's not playing too many minutes on the ice.
Yeah. No, I mean, when it comes to picks for defensemen of the future, I mean, the latest trade recently was with Chris Tanev, and it's been weird because a lot of the trades been going on this year have been like 3-team trades, which I haven't seen lately in the NHL. I forgot who. I think Calgary was involved before too, where there was 3 teams that traded for a player off their team. But yeah, I mean, Chris Tanev was a guy that was named to the Sabres. Defensive defenseman. The Sabres actually checked in on him earlier, I think in February or even in January. And they kind of got the hint talking to the team as well as the agent that he was not going to waive his no trade clause for the Sabres. And that's overall what's going to hurt the Sabres as a franchise in general is the no trade clauses, because I can't think of any player that's going to want to be traded to the Sabres, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah.
Especially a player that's been on a contract for a while, or a player that's going to have to re-sign. Because most players, if they're on their UFA deal right now and they're going to get traded, they're going to want to be traded to a contender. They're not going to want to come to the Buffalo Sabres, and the Sabres going to have to beg and cry for them to sign an extension. The Sabres going to have to overpay that player too as well. So Sabres are kind of just in a lose-lose situation when it comes to this trade deadline. I mean, they don't really have players that they can, like, you hear the rumors of Eric Johnson, Kyle Okposo, and Gergensons being traded, but what are you getting? What are you getting in return? A bag of hockey pucks or what for those guys?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you'd probably get very nominal returns for any of the guys you would actually want to trade.
Yeah, like some future consideration. So, I mean, I really don't expect really anything big to happen at this trade deadline. I don't expect Casey Middlestat to be leaving. I heard that some teams out. I think the Boston Bruins checked in on Alex Tuch too, and Kevin Adams said, "No way, Jose." So he's not leaving. Which, I mean, that's a good thing because he's still. I'm assuming he still has positive energy for playing in Buffalo too. He loves it here. And he loves the Sabres, so hopefully that that says a little something. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to be surprised with this trade deadline for nothing to happen. I really expect a lot of things. Well, yeah, I expect is going to be the underline. Expect, bold it, whatever. I expect things to be done this off season.
Yeah, I'd be looking more towards the offseason as well.
Yeah. If we pull the same BS, this is another reason why I don't want to go on another run and hopefully try to get into the playoffs, because I don't want to bring back the same team next year. I'm not doing this for a third year in a row. So I don't know, Sam, do you have any other thoughts on this at all?
No, for me, it's just kind of wait and see for the trade deadline. We'll get whatever we get, whatever Kevin Adams decides. We'll be stuck with that decision. And like you said, it's kind of a lose-lose. You either give up some of the guys for basically nothing, or you probably make what is a bad trade for a guy who doesn't want to be here on an expiring contract. And then you miss the playoffs. So,
yeah. No, you don't want to mortgage the future, or you don't want to mortgage your draft picks or prospects for a guy you're going to have in the short term, because I've heard some weird guys being mentioned for, the Sabres should trade for Gensel in Pittsburgh. I'm like, why?
Yeah,
we talked about this last week. We don't need another Jake Gensel. We have a bunch of Jake Gensels on this team. So yeah. Besides that, it's overall with the wins and the trade deadline. I mean, trade deadline was a lot more talkative at the beginning of February, but I haven't really heard any other news. Do you have any other topics to bring up about the Sabres at all?
Well, I mean, just quickly addressing a thing from the chat, just kind of related, because we're talking about waiting until the off season and the next season is, when does the next season start? And it's in October. So
wake me up when September ends. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's exactly what we got. And then Mike says, thanks for the therapy session. He'll listen in peace. Now, you know what, Mike? You're always a welcome caller. You're willing to say whatever you want, even if you're making fun of my takes. But we appreciate having you in the chat, just engaging. And I'm glad that we could give you a little bit of a therapy session.
Yeah. And then if you need to get fired up, go back to the shows in December, specifically after the 7-2 rout for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then
Shout out to when we still cared.
Yeah, and you'll see me. I'll be fired up at that point. I think I went on a little bit of a rant a couple weeks ago, but at this point, nothing really too much.
Oh wait, I do actually have another topic. Unless you planned on moving on to another segment, I did have
no, go for it.
All right, so the game that we've played all season. Would you hire?
I was going to bring this up.
Oh, okay, perfect then.
But go
Would
for it.
Would you hire Lindy Ruff, most recent firing from the New Jersey Devils?
I mean, I've been toying with this idea since I found out he got fired yesterday. You hear some things about what happened in New Jersey, similar to things that are happening in Buffalo. Forgetting to send out a sixth skater when you pull the goaltender. That's a little bit of an interesting thing, but also New Jersey's been decimated by injuries, and they've kind of had guys who had career years last year, same as that thing, are not having career years this year. So it's like a similar situation going on in New Jersey, but I'm going to say yes to Lindy Ruff. I would hire Lindy Ruff. And the biggest thing with Lindy Ruff, and what I don't get from Don Granato, is the accountability aspect, where Lindy Ruff is going to be a little bit more. He's going to be, you have good cop right now in Granato, and then you're going to kind of have like the bad cop and Lindy Ruff coming in, where he's going to bag skate guys, he's going to bench guys, he's not afraid to step on guys' egos. To get them to play a team game. I mean, talk to Thomas Vanek. Thomas Vanek was literally dogged by Lindy Ruff his whole career here in Buffalo. Which is that a good thing overall? Probably not. But I just need something of a little bit more of a change from Granato. He's just too nice, man. He's too nice. He seems like too much of a player's coach, which at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like he's getting taken advantage by these players too, because they play hard from one game and they don't play hard from later. Now, does that mean you bring in a tougher coach on them like Lindy Ruff and they are like, well, screw this guy. I'm not going to play hard for him. He's mean to us type of thing. So now, if you ask me, does Lindy Ruff bring this team to the promised land, aka the Stanley Cup? I'm going to say no to that. But to get a new voice in the locker room, I would say yes to Lindy Ruff, to kind of be like that feeder into maybe a coach that can help, bring in another guy who has an offensive system or a skill way to bring this team into the Stanley Cup and hopefully win it. Like almost like a Bruce Cassidy for the Golden Knights. What are your thoughts, Sam?
Well, I mean, first of all, who's going to be dumb enough to let Bruce Cassidy go looking at you, Boston?
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, I don't know. Lindy Ruff's career, as much as, we haven't had a coach with a better winning percentage since him. Lindy Ruff's career has been pretty up and down. There's been some pretty heavy swings, and obviously, sometimes it's just the roster that you have. You can't control that, but he's had a pretty similar roster this year to last year, and it's not looking too good for them. And they were a .683 points percentage last year.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're looking to miss the playoffs. And by the way, they replaced with Travis Green, the guy who was outed from
where was
that? Vancouver?
Yeah.
Before Boudreaux. And I don't feel like that was the right move either, but that's exactly why we play this game, because you fire a coach and then you play the game of okay, who next? And for them, it was Travis Green, which I personally wouldn't have said yes to.
Yeah.
But here we are, right? There's a very select group of what would actually be considered good coaches in the league. And one of them retired recently, or I guess moved to being a GM in Nashville with Barry Trotz. So, yeah, I think given everything, he'd probably be an upgrade over what we have right now. I don't think that putting him on the roster right now, though, makes you even a playoff team. Like, I don't think you still win the remaining games that you need to.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's a wait till the offseason thing. I don't know. Maybe if you just want to get rid of Granato now, give Ruff an opportunity to implement a system before the next year starts so that they're already rolling moving into it, then perhaps I would even be willing, because you say like a good cop, bad cop, if they were to both work on the same coaching staff, like if you get him in as one of the coaches, although I'm not sure he'd be willing to take a assistant type position.
Yeah.
He hasn't, I guess he was an assistant after Dallas for the Rangers. So I was going to say he hasn't been an assistant.
Was it under Alain Vigneault?
I do not know. It does not say here.
Okay.
But I can probably, Alain Vigneault. So
I always wonder, would he want to be an assistant coach for Don Granato is my question.
And that's a very good question, right?
Yeah, because Alain Vigneault, I know he's not my favorite coach. I'll be honest with you. But, I mean, with the was he the coach? He was the coach for Vancouver for a long time with the Sabine Twins, right? I mean, so he carried some weight in his name, so that's why Lindy Ruff could be an assistant coach to him. But to come to Buffalo and be an assistant coach to Granato, I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of ego that gets in the way from that, right?
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe you could convince him, and then if that was the case, then you actually do have the live good cop, bad cop instead of you had the good cop, now you only get the bad cop. Yeah. So maybe that's a more effective grouping, and then you wouldn't have to have the conversation of, well, Granato brought in people who have no experience, so that he's the most experienced guy in the room. We can shut down that narrative, and maybe that would have kind of appeased the both worlds of like, maybe it's not the right move to get rid of him now, and we definitely need someone who has more experience. What if Lindy Ruff as an assistant coach? The only issue is then convincing Lindy Ruff to be an assistant coach. But if you can't get him as the assistant, I would probably say yes to him over Granato right now for head coach.
What do you think it takes to be like a president of hockey operations? Like, what type of resume do you have to have?
I have no idea. It feels like people just create that position for fun occasionally. Like, does every organization have one?
No, because the Sabres don't have one right now.
Right. So
because they both report separately. Granato and Adams report separately to Pegula.
Yeah. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what makes a president of hockey ops, because I don't even know what a president of hockey ops does. It feels like an arbitrary thing that they give GMs so that they can replace the GM while keeping the GM.
Yeah. I just, because that's what Briere is for Philadelphia, right? He's not the GM. He's the president.
I thought he was the GM, but I could be wrong.
Or maybe he has like that double title.
Yeah, maybe he's both.
Yeah, which is like, okay, what does it make a difference then?
Yeah, sounds like redundancy to me.
Yeah. I almost wonder, and I almost think, knowing Terry Pegula, maybe he like talks to Lindy Ruff of being, hey, would you want to be the president of hockey operations here? So he oversees both Kevin Adams and Don Granato. And then, since Pegula can't do the firing type of stuff, maybe Lindy Ruff, who has more connections, would be more of like the fire brimstone to guy to fire people.
Perhaps.
That's my only other thought, because I'm assuming he would not want to take the assistant coach position. And maybe you offer him that. So, yeah. We'll see. I mean, I'm not expecting Granato to leave this season. I don't expect the Sabres to make a change this season. I think Granato's new contract starts at next season, actually, too. So you got a full, I think you got a full 3 years between him and Kevin Adams. So, and we know Pegula is not a fan of burning any more money on the Sabres, as we can tell. So, it's going to be an interesting time. So, yeah. I'm yay for Lindy Ruff to be the head coach, just to kind of give this team a new direction, a new voice on the team. So yeah, that was like the only other news that I was going to talk about. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up at all?
I believe for kind of what's going on in the Sabres world, that's about it. People are just kind of holding their breath and seeing what's going to happen leading up to the 8th, the trade deadline.
Yeah. So I really haven't seen too much around the hockey news at all. I guess the one thing that I wanted to bring up from last week that I didn't bring up, but I guess it's almost fitting to bring it up this week. Matt Rempe. What have you been thinking about him lately? I mean, this guy comes up 6'7", playing for the New York Rangers, and I believe in 6 games he's had 6 fights. And the one game against the New Jersey Devils, he only lasted 3 minutes into the game before being removed from the game for a hit. So, fighting back in the NHL, do we have a new King Goon coming up here? I know he faced Ryan Reeves this weekend, but that fight kind of didn't live up to the expectations. I think Rempe was kind of getting sick of getting his face punched in. What are your thoughts of Rempe and like this new invigoration of like fighting going on in NHL with Rempe coming up?
Well, as you said, the most recent fight against Reeves is not as interesting. And if you haven't seen any of his earlier fights, I highly recommend them because they're fun to watch. He's a guy, he plays 6 minutes a night and he fights someone. It's what more could you ask for, out of your bottom line guy. He's a big body too. He can annoy people and hit them. And it's fun to watch hockey fights, right? Like there used to be that joke. Like I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out.
Yep.
People enjoy hockey fights. It's a bunch of fun. And Matt Rempe is about as good at it as anyone I've seen in the modern NHL. And so he comes in and it invigorates other players too. There have been fights around the league that have looked heavier. There was one Reeves decided to fight someone in Arizona prior to his game against Rempe. So, a little bit of a warm-up match, but some of the people around the leagues are feeling it, and we're seeing some more heavyweight tilts, and it's fun. It's fun for the game of hockey. I don't necessarily believe that this is how like hockey should be played. We need to go back to being like a rough, tough, whatever game. But if you can mix kind of the skill and the physicality, because Matt Rempe's not a slouch. If you watch some of his play, like he's not just a deficit when he's on the ice the way that Reeves is. So like, it's just kind of fun to watch him. He's quickly made himself a fan favorite. He's only 20 years old as well. So I am in favor of Matt Rempe and more Matt Rempe type players. I don't think that, you should be just putting fighters on your roster if they detract from the actual skill of the game, because again, Ryan Reeves, if you watch him play, it's incredibly boring nowadays. He gets on there, he falls behind, and then he gets angry and tries to punch something. And it's like, yeah, you did it, guy. Would I ever say this to his face? No, because I'd be the thing he'd punch. But like,
you and me both.
Ryan Reeves does not belong in the league at this point.
Yeah,
but Matt Rempe, he's just getting into it. So very, very fun and exciting time.
Exactly. I mean, maybe cut down the pace for a fight every single game if you want a longevity to your career.
His face is looking a little bruised at the moment. But
oh my god, those 2 black eyes. His one eye looked like it was down here. His other eye was up here. I mean, he was looking like what's his name? The guy from the Goonies. So no, it's always exciting to have fighting back, and I think every team should have at least one player that's like your enforcer type player. So, you kind of keep the game in check. I always believe that a fighter keeps the game in check. So no dirty hits, not as many dirty hits happen. So, it's cool. It's nice to have fighting back. Like you said, don't want to see a fight every game I watch. When it's necessary, you can have a fight. But no, it's cool to see a young guy doing that.
Speaking of fights, though, and like having a fighter on the team.
Oh, yeah.
Someone should have absolutely destroyed Blake Wheeler. Or was that Scheifele? Sorry, Mark Scheifele. Someone should have destroyed Mark Scheifele in the Winnipeg game. That was really disappointing to see. There was a play where Dahlin was just like skating backwards, and Scheifele decided to take it upon himself to just hack his shin. And Dahlin was kind of out, like stumbling around, right kind of, I believe it was at the end of the second period.
Yep.
And no one during the third really made Scheifele even pay with it with like big hits or anything. It was just like, they lost his number immediately after. So
yeah. I don't have to go on another tirade about this team, and it's accountability / toughness, but
like I don't need someone to fight him. I don't need someone who's the goon or tough guy.
No.
Make Mark Scheifele's life a living hell after he does that. Every single ticky-tacky thing you can do to him, every single unnecessary big hit you can lay on him should happen. It felt like there was no one who even acknowledged that Mark Scheifele was on the ice, and that's kind of just disappointing to see.
And that's the benefit of having like a player. I know this is to the extremes, but like the Shucks or Marchand, a guy that can, he plays like, he's going to go after guys that do that to his teammate, but he's also going to go out there and score goals for your team and make your team productive.
Yeah.
Now those type of players are they're almost like a dime a dozen. You can't really find many of those out there that are that productive, but you do want a guy like that on your team. Just, like I said, keep guys accountable, and the Sabres just need more of that on the team. You really can't expect that from anybody out there. We can't, as you can tell, it was kind of forced on Cousins, and Cousins got his lights beaten in a fight earlier this season. So, don't want him doing that. Peyton Krebs, the dude's like 5 foot nothing. So I don't know if you want him doing that either. So, let's get a bigger guy out there. And, that's almost where you expect a guy like Eric Robinson to do that type of stuff,
Eric Robinson is actually like an incredibly unpenalized hockey player. Going into the year before he got his suspension, he had like 4 combined penalty minutes over his career. It was something ridiculous like that. He does not take penalties. So I didn't really expect him to fight just given that stat line because, you'd at least have 5. But
yeah. But like when you're like a fourth liner guy tweener between the NHL and AHL, you gotta do something that makes you stay up in the NHL. And I think that's something you can do because he's not a skill guy. His defense is blah. So, it might be a little bit like the title of our show, too little too late for him to kind of change his game up at this point. So,
right. Yeah. So after is that 8 years? After 8 years in the NHL, Eric Robinson has only amassed 17 penalty or 57. Sorry, 17 this year though. So he's already on pace to break his record for a single year. He had 0 penalty minutes the year before.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, wait, never mind. I'm looking at the wrong thing because it's broken up. So he had 0 penalty minutes during this season before he came over. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where he played like 2 games.
He had like 7. But in the year before that, he had 6 total penalty minutes over 72 games. So like he does not take penalties.
No. Which I said, that's interesting for a guy who's trying to stay in the NHL. But
yeah.
I digress. So, Sam, do you have anything else to go around in NHL news talking about?
I do not. So I'm willing to move on to kind of the 3 stars in the next upcoming games if that works for you.
3 stars. No, I do have one other thing.
All right, you said
we'll go over
our
3 stars. Yeah, at the end. So we'll go over our 3 stars. So, Sam, who are your 3 stars of the week?
Well, my 3 stars, until he posts a number below 900, I'm just going to keep giving it to Jukka-Pekka Luukkonen. He's not getting lit up. He's keeping our team in games. He had an unfortunate kind of third period against the Winnipeg Jets that resulted in us getting 2 empty net goals subsequently scored on us. But he was still 909. That's good goaltending. That's at least average goaltending. So I'm going to give Jukka-Pekka Luukkonen, I'll give him the 2nd star just because. I'm going to give Dylan Cousins my 1st star because 2 shorthanded goals, 1 game, that's hard to do. That is impressive. I know it was a kind of a blowout game, and so everyone's putting up points, but his were special. Those were shorthanded goals. And I hope that it gives him a little bit of confidence to get kind of back on his feet and get productive again. So that's my hope with him, and that's kind of why I'm giving him the 3rd star. It's more of a hopeful 3rd or 1st star. And for my 3rd star, we've picked on him a lot this year. A lot. I'm going to give it to Matty Ellis. Let's go. Great job writing up that play that gives us the win in Tampa Bay. Shout out Matt Ellis. I hope Razor talks to you between the periods and tells you that I said shout out to you.
That's like an ongoing bit with Razor talking to Matty Ellis.
He talked to Matty Ellis between periods and said the Sabres need to be better to win the game.
Oh,
yeah,
no
cool.
shit.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No shit, Sherlock. Yeah, all right. I mean, that was a surprise. That was a nice curveball. So, yeah, I was going to go with UPL as well. He's going to be one of my stars. I'm also going to go with Rasmus Dahlin. I mean, playing 30 minutes a game, that's a lot. Now, he had the overtime winning goal in Tampa Bay. Besides that, I mean, he didn't have any other – I think he might have an assist, but, I mean, not much more points after that. But overall, you're playing half the game. Not many players do that in the NHL, especially on a team that is not winning at this point, not a playoff team. So just want to give him another star. You know, he is the franchise player right now. So keep on going. I mean, quietly having a good season, like we said, quietly a Norris Trophy season. And then my 3rd star is going to go to Casey Middlestat. So I think he had points in both. He had points in the Wild game and also had points. What just happened there? The Knights game. I was thinking about last week. The Vegas Golden Knights game, and also in the Tampa Bay Lightning game. Leading points getter for the team as well, having a solid season. You know, you're not leaving Casey. You're staying on the team. Glad to have you here. Let's keep this thing rolling. So those are my 3 stars of the week.
Rightio.
Cool.
All right. So upcoming, we have 4 games. I get like 3 games, but then we have one on Tuesday. So it's 3 games. Then we'll be live for the Red Wings. The first game is tomorrow against the Maple Leafs. Do you have anything you'd like to see in that, or do you want to just go over all the games and then kind of say what we'd like to see the week?
Yeah, let's go over all the games.
All right, so you got the Maple Leafs tomorrow, 7 p.m. Then we're at the Predators. That's on Thursday at 8 p.m. Then we have the trade deadline on Friday, so that's something to look forward to. And then we'll see what our team looks like by the time that the Oilers are in our barn on Saturday, and that's a 12:30 game. And then on Tuesday, it's the first of those 3 Red Wing games that we talked about.
My thoughts of the week. So I guess I'll go over them a little individually myself too. So Toronto, just keep on being that thorn in the side for Toronto. Just get the win in there. I mean, if you have to avenge for your 5-2 win like you did, or a 5-2 loss like you did when you lost to Columbus and you beat up on the Maple Leafs, just do it again. I mean, Toronto doesn't have your number. They lost you into the Heritage Classic last year in the game. So yeah, I'm going to say you're going to get that W against Toronto. Then you're going to go away to Nashville. And Nashville, I mean, Nashville's kind of had the Sabres number this season. But I think they can get a win there. So I think we get a 2-game win streak there. Then you come home. Now, depending on what happens on the trade deadline, if you're losing guys like Oposo, Gergensons, Eric Johnson, you're losing your veteran leadership, that's going to be a tough game for the team to get up to. So with that expectations and it being Edmonton and being Connor McDavid and you have Draisaitl there as well, I don't expect the Sabres to win that game. Now, it's not going to be a shit pumping, but it's going to be a loss either way. I think it might be a close game there. Then in Detroit, which I'll be broadcasting from a hotel room at that point in Philadelphia, that should be a good game. I mean, I expect a good game out of there. I mean, here's a team that you're expected to be going, neck to neck with at this point, with fighting for a playoff spot. So, I don't know. Patty Kane homecoming. Detroit. let's get a W on that game too. So I expect the team to keep on going with their 97-point pace they've been going on for the second half of the season to win 3 out of the 4 games. Sam, what are your thoughts?
I'm kind of vaguely at 3 out of 4 as well. Like that's kind of what I wanted to see this week. It's tough schedule. Predators, like you said, they figured it out recently. I think they were on they're on an 8-game win streak. So by the time that we face them, they could be at 10. Or maybe we'd be the 10. Who knows? We would never be the 10. We're too good for that. The Maple Leafs, they're kind of towards the top of our division. So they're going to be a challenging one. And then you got Edmonton. I don't care where you drop the 1, as long as it's not against the Red Wings. That's the team you got to beat. And obviously, it'd be nice to do that in regulation, but we cannot worry about other teams right now.
Mm-hmm.
We can only worry about ourselves.
That's
so
right.
That's about it for what I want this week. Just 3 wins. Cool. It's not that hard. They can do it.
No, 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4. They did that a couple of weeks ago. They can do it again. So now it's time for our game.
Oh boy, what game you got for me?
So to give you a little background story, one of my favorite podcasts. One of the topics they brought up was, the host brought up to the producer, who pretends to be a baseball fan / sports fan, said, all right, who are the top 10 home run leaders all time in the MLB? And he got up to about 8, and the host said, well, the show isn't ending until you get all of them. And he got the stream. I think he finally got it while we were streaming. I have it on in the background. But for 36 hours, he was stuck on Jim Thome. He couldn't leave him and the other producer couldn't leave the podcast studio, so they slept in there and everything.
This sounds like a form of torture.
It was actually pretty funny. But yeah, Jim Thome's wife called in to be giving him some hints about who he is. They actually gave him all the stats about him. They literally eliminated names for him. They gave him all the teams that he played for and everything. Okay. And he still couldn't get it. And even during the streams, Jim Thome's name it got to the point where Jim Thome supposedly was trending nationally on Twitter as a trending topic just based off of the show. It's not really that big of a podcast. So very interesting. But Sam, for you, now the stream is not going to be going on. We got lives after this. Who are the top 10 most career goal scorers in the NHL?
Okay.
Just rattle some off.
Okay. I know, Gretzky. That's free.
Yes.
When we started the podcast, actually, so I was talking to Mike and I was like, because I think I was kind of the first one who signed on and was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then we kind of picked you up afterwards. I was talking to Mike. I'm like, I don't really know. I'm more of kind of a new age. I like the analytics side. I like kind of the new age hockey. I'm younger, right? I haven't watched for.
Sound like excuses right now.
Watched any? Well, I'm just explaining this. I haven't watched anything before the year 2000, so I don't have too much of the history of the Sabres. And he's like, "That's fine. We'll just it'll create a good dichotomy because a lot of the people I'm talking to right now, for potential people, whether it was Tom or you, he's like they're kind of older, so you'll probably be paired with someone who has more of the hockey history, and then you can be kind of the guy who's the new age, whatever." I'm like, yeah, cool. That works. Kind of have some mix up there. That's all to say, I'm going to suck at this, be terrible at this.
I would say if I was in your position, I would probably get 8 out of the 10. So there's some big names up there.
Listen, so Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, well, I heard some clicking on there. You didn't look it up, did you?
No.
All right.
I never. Wayne Gretzky is easy.
Yep.
I know Alex Ovechkin.
Ooh,
That was a weird slip because Alex Ovechkin's number 2 because we all know he's chasing that record.
Yep.
I believe he recently passed Gordie Howe.
Yep. That's number 3.
So that's
the
one,
top
2,
3
3
right now.
And I literally, like, obviously Wayne Gretzky's like the easiest one, but I only know Gordie Howe because of it was like a milestone for Ovechkin to pass. The other ones, I have no idea.
Okay.
Hold on. I can do this. I can think very hard about this.
One guy was recently honored by his
One
longtime
guy, more importantly, one guy played for, I want to say, like 18 seasons, and that would be Jaromir Jagr.
Yeah.
And if you play 18 seasons and you're good enough to play for 18 seasons, that means you probably are up there in the conversation for goals. I'm going to say he's probably like, maybe he's because you brought him up next. Maybe he's 4, but I want to say he's like 6. But okay, you're nodding
4.
for 4.
Yeah,
you're nodding for 4. I accept that. Who's? I'm just gonna maybe I just rattle off names that are important to hockey.
Yeah,
like Marc Messier.
Yes, number 9.
Okay, we got Marc Messier at 9. Oh God, like I'm trying to. God. I know Marc Messier had a lot of points. I didn't know he was much of a goal scorer.
Me either, but yeah, 94 goals.
Steve Yzerman.
Yes, he is number 10.
I know he's kind of in the
692.
He's kind of in that conversation. Would we get Mario Lemieux in there?
I was surprised. No, number 11, 690. I was surprised.
Okay.
A lot of injuries.
If Mario Lemieux is at 690, then we're not getting Sidney Crosby in there.
Nope.
Oh God. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 9 and 10.
Yep.
That leaves.
Chat, you can help out too.
Nah, this is terrible. That's about it.
There's one guy known mostly for as a St. Louis Blues, but won his cup with the Dallas Stars against the Buffalo Sabres. He was like a big feature when the St. Louis Blues actually won this past cup. Like they showed him all the time.
Was he the? Oh God, I should know this one. I know this one.
Mm-hmm.
Was it his foot? Or did he like score that goal?
I can't remember now.
I feel like he was on the ice for that goal.
He was. I can't remember his foot.
It might have been his foot.
I think it is. It was, yeah.
Then in that case, is it Hull?
Yes, Brett Hull is number 5 on the list. I was surprised. 5 for Brett Hull.
Yeah, that I would listen. I literally would never have gotten that. Now I need to look up whether that was him on the.
I'm gonna give you 6, 7, 8 because I would have never got these.
No goal. Yeah, it was Brett Hull's foot. Okay,
Yep.
Yeah, so I was right there.
6, 7, 8. I'm just gonna say them. I wouldn't have gotten them. So you got the ones that I would have gotten.
Right.
Number 6,
Mario.
Marcel Dion.
I don't even know that name.
Yeah. I've heard of him loosely. Phil Esposito.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then Mike Gartner.
Don't know that one either.
Very, yeah. But I was surprised. Teemu Solani, number 12.
Okay.
Then we have Brendan Shanahan, 14. Dave Andreychuk, so that was the first former Sabre, coming at 15. Joe Sakic, 16. Jerome Ginla, 17, which he must have scored I'm trying to remember his career. He must have scored a lot of goals early in his career. So that his career.
Growing up, I knew him as just like a pure sniper. And he was good. He was very good in the league. So it makes sense to me that he'd be like up there for goals. I wouldn't have put him that far up there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, me either. But yeah, just to end it all up, Sidney Crosby at 21. And wow, Patrick Marleau at 24. Interesting. All right. So yeah, that's pretty much all of that. I just wanted to do that as a quick little thing.
You know what? I did better than I thought I would, but there were 3 people in there I would never have gotten. We would be doing this stream for actual years because I never would have gotten them.
I feel like I would have got Esposito. I think
maybe Esposito would have been the only one, but Marcel Dion and who was the other one?
I would never. Yeah, Marcel Dion I would have tripped on because I would have eventually got that. But Mike Gartner, not a chance. I would have never guessed Mike Gartner.
Yeah, we would have been here just having fun, enjoying each other's company for the rest of eternity because that would have been impossible for us.
Can you imagine that? The longest podcast ever. Sabres Edge. We couldn't even talk about the other games of the rest of the seasons. It was just only on this topic until we finished.
Yeah, we're just like, what is the names? Who did it? I mean, I feel like eventually one of us would crack and just be like, all right, we're looking it up now. But
most likely, that probably would have been mean.
I don't have the constitution to like the guy who went. However, you said 34 hours or something.
Yeah, the show just ended 36 hours.
Like I would have looked it up well before 36 hours. That's a little bit aggressive, but
they took away his phone. He wasn't allowed to look at screens. Yeah, he had someone always watching him all the time, even when he went to the bathroom too. So
that's crazy.
Yeah,
you're not even allowed on your phone for other things. That's terrible. That would be such a miserable 36 hours.
Yeah. I mean, at least they had company because people are trying to do that alone. Yeah. Anyways, good game, Sam. You did kind of what I expected you because I was at the same as well. So with that, we're gonna end our show there. We might do a challenge next week. Sam might have something for me. Maybe I'll have another one for Sam. But besides that, I appreciate everyone watching the show, joining our podcast. Please comment, like, and subscribe to the Nickel City Mafia show. We also do Buffalo Bills topics as well, but we are the Sabres podcast here, the only one here, the best one on YouTube. So thanks for joining us. And also, like I said earlier in the show, we still have that big stitch embroidery contest going on in our Discord. So in the description of the show, click on the link, join our Discord, join the Big Stitch embroidery chat that we have going on there. I think we've only had one person on there, and that's Trek Reviewer, who is a troll for Mike on his channel. So with that, thank you everybody for watching the show. We'll have some more to talk about after the trade deadline, and have a good night.
Goodbye.